Thanks for watching, everybody. I'm Megan Kelly. See you tomorrow.
Tonight, President Obama refuses to tell the out-of-control anti-democratic protesters to just stop.
I wouldn't advise them to be silent.
Laura Ingram is here tonight with reaction.
What was your reaction when you saw the news that Donald Trump had been elected?
Well, first, I cried.
And whiny college liberals continue their hissy fit over President-elect Donald Trump. When will this madness end?
What kind of discipline problems were you having?
Well, I was just somebody that was rebellious.
Did you resent your dad when he sent you?
No, not at all. I understood.
Did he sit you down and say, here's why?
Well, he said, I want to shape you up.
Plus, TMZ's Harvey Levin is here to preview his prime time special with the president-elect. All of that, plus Ainsley Earhardt and Larry Elder join us. Hannity starts right here, right now.
And welcome to Hannity. And tonight, President Obama, he refuses to condemn the anti-democratic, alt-radical left protest against President-elect Donald Trump. Now, earlier today, while in Germany, Obama was given the chance to speak out against all of this out-of-control behavior, and instead, this is what he said.
I would not advise people who feel strongly or are concerned about some of the issues that have been raised during the course of the campaign. I wouldn't advise them to be silent.
Well, some are even being violent, pretty unbelievable, but it does fall in line with everything that President Obama stands for. Now, I tried to warn the country and everyone back in 2008 that Obama, well, he was a disciple of the alt-radical left. Remember, he embraces the Saul Alinsky rules for radical tactics. Remember, he palled around with unrepentant domestic terrorists, Bill Ayers, Bernardine Dorn, even started his political career in their living room. And they bombed the Pentagon, the Capitol, and New York City Police headquarters. Now, President Obama, remember, he sat in the pews of Reverend Wright for 20 years, the Church of GD America, listening to things like this.
The stuff we have done overseas is now brought right back into our own front yards. America's chickens are coming home to roost. No, no, no. Not God bless America. God damn America. That's in the Bible for killing innocent people. God damn America for treating us citizens as less than human.
Alt-radical left. The president spent 20 years in the Church of GD America. Now, since the president refuses to speak out against these anti-democratic agitators, well, let me remind him about what has been going on in the president's hometown of Chicago. Now, a man was severely beaten by an angry mob after a traffic incident because they thought he was a Trump supporter. Look at this, Mr. President.
Yeah! Yeah, you voted Trump! Yeah! Don't vote Trump! Don't vote Trump! Don't vote Trump!
And Mr. President, did you see this mother in Texas who's now under investigation after kicking her 7-year-old son out of the house? Why? Because he voted for Donald Trump in a mock election at school. Take a look.
Since you voted for Donald Trump, you can get your and get out. The suitcase is packed by the door. Yeah, been packed since this morning. Bye. Everyone, come out here. Let's go. Come on. Take your sign. Bye. Let's go.
Now, these are just two of many examples. Now, we've also seen continual protests all across the country that have resulted in the destruction of property, unlawful behavior, and arrests. Now, President Obama, don't you think you should follow in the footsteps of your predecessor? Remember President George W. Bush? He stayed out of the political arena, and he let you, his successor, do your job. President Bush, he never responded to President Obama's relentless blaming and name-calling. Instead, President Bush, he actually did take the high road, as you have often taken the low road, like the Democrats claim that you always do. Take a look. And I could sit here all day and try and get you to comment on President Obama, and I'm not going to get anywhere.
Correct.
Because I've known you. I know you very well.
Yes, you do.
Why did you make that decision? Because I'm sure you have a lot to say. We've talked politics before we came in. You're very engaged and aware of what's going on.
I'm very aware of what's going on. I don't think it's good for the country to have a former president
undermine the current president. I think it's bad for the presidency, for that matter.
I know the hair looks awful now, but why do I suspect President Obama will never show the same amount of grace and respect when it comes to Donald Trump and his presidency? Here's my prediction today and now. President Obama will not be able to contain himself, and he will go after Mr. Trump every single chance he gets once Obama is out of office. And here's another thing. After Donald Trump's sweeping victory, President Obama, he's been in complete and utter denial that the election had anything to do with him or his failed policies. Now, the facts, they say otherwise. Now, since 2009, under President Obama, well, let's see, the Democrats have lost 13 U.S. Senate seats, meaning from blue to red. 64 U.S. House seats, blue to red. 13 governorships, blue to red. And get this, 33 state houses. Wow, what a legacy. Now, our next president, Donald Trump, has been handed a huge mess. This is almost beyond repair, thanks to President Obama. That's why this election was so important. And now Republicans, they have no excuses why they can't get things done. President-elect Trump needs to keep in mind that the media, they're never going to like him, especially after WikiLeaks exposed that the press was openly colluding with the Clinton campaign, like CNBC and MSNBC and CNN and the New York Times and the whole rest of them. Now, the president-elect also needs to understand the Republican establishment, they're not going to be his friend either. He needs to stay focused and remember the promises to you, the American people. You know the promises: repeal or replace Obamacare, identify radical Islam, lower taxes, repatriate corporate profits, build the border wall, appoint originalists to the Supreme Court, fix inner cities, energy independence, drain the swamp, send education back to the states, you know, say radical Islam, vet refugees, all of these important issues, free trade. He has to remember you, the American people, what I call the forgotten men and women of this country in this election. Now, that list is where Trump needs to keep his focus. If President Obama, if he wants to keep calling for protests, then that will be his legacy. One of division, rich versus poor, old versus young, black versus white, always dividing. That's what you get under President Obama. My advice to President-elect Trump, stay focused. Here with reaction, the editor-in-chief of Life Zet, Fox News contributor, nationally syndicated radio host, Laura Ingram. I talk about the alt-radical left. Who are these people? Occupy?
Yeah.
Right? Occupy?
Yeah.
They are
Occupy Wall Street. That's
MoveOn.org, Black Lives Matter, pigs in a blanket frying like bacon. What do we want? Dead cops. What do we want them now? Weren't they embraced by both Hillary and Obama? Does that make them alt-radical left, meaning the president and Hillary?
Yeah, the nomenclature is so tedious. It's used to demean and dismiss the viewpoints of more traditionally focused Americans, Sean. And I'd throw in La Raza, the Mexican-American Legal Defense Organization, MALDEF. There are a whole bunch of amnesty groups that are loosely connected that have the same goal, which is to essentially eliminate any border enforcement in the United States and bring about kind of a borderless North America. That's their ultimate goal. They say it's just things like immigration reform, but when you really dig into the more radical statements of some of their founders, it's much more reliant on an America that ceases to exist as we know it, that allows people to come and go without any question about legality.
You watch the media, they're like sharks, and they're now circling. They've been exposed as colluding with the Clinton campaign.
Yeah.
97% in the MRC poll said that did not impact their vote, although most people now recognize media bias and journalism's dead, as we have discussed a lot. But they're ready to pounce over Ivanka's bracelet. They're ready to pounce that he went out with his family for a hamburger and didn't notify the press. I think it's only going to get worse. How will this impact Trump's decision-making for the cabinet and people that he hires? Because they're going to look for any little thing that maybe somebody said or did in their past.
Well, if past is prologue, it won't have any effect on what the president-elect is going to do as far as decisions on a cabinet. He was hammered throughout most of the election cycle, most of the primaries, and certainly in the general election. I mean, there wasn't a day that went by when there wasn't some attempt to take down the whole Trump apparatus. But he didn't really change his approach all that much. He kept his focus for the most part, with a few exceptions, on the pledge to the American people that he was going to change the path that we were on, away from the old establishment order and to a much more populist, pragmatic approach to both foreign policy and domestic policy, where we finally get our economic house in order, at least start down that path. We enforce our borders, we get rid of Obamacare, start to dismantle this massive federal government, Sean, that keeps ballooning in Washington. And all these attempts to cut waste, fraud, and abuse over the decades haven't really amounted to much. We need this government cut back. We need it trimmed back. We need a scalpel. We need a meat cleaver in some cases. But yeah, it needs to be cut back. Can I say something about the protesters, just briefly? When you go back to Saul Alinsky's Rules for Radicals, and I know you've talked about it so well on this show over the years, but there's that one rule that says that the protests have to be relentless, and they have to be so disruptive and so constant that they change and disrupt the normal order of things. And you can never have any conversation between the protesters and their opponents. The opponents of the protesters always have to be described as evil, immoral and evil. So that's what's really playing out in this very organized effort to disrupt the normal course of whether it's commerce or traffic or even schools to some effect. And it's straight out of Saul Alinsky. I mean, this is a Saul Alinsky.
When you went to Dartmouth, did you have a cry room? Did you ever color in coloring books or play with Play-Doh or get hot cocoa from your professors? Any of that happen?
No. I was causing trouble at the Dartmouth Review when I was editing that. So I was. They had other knives out for us at Dartmouth back then, but now it's really gotten much worse from the mid '80s, Sean. It's now.
What is a cry room? What is it?
Come on.
I don't know what it means to cry. Can you imagine that come on national TV? Obama wins in 2008. I fought my heart out to inform the American people he would be horrible. I ended up being right. I wish I wasn't.
Yeah.
And I came on the air with the dog to comfort me and have somebody, a producer, bring me a hot cocoa and a coloring book.
Yeah,
coloring book, Play-Doh?
Yeah, they bring Play-Doh, coloring books, Legos. I mean, we're infantilizing adulthood, Sean. And remember, masculinity itself is considered a threat on college campuses.
Yeah, that's
masculinity, a guy's guy, no, you can't be that. That in and of itself is microaggression. And so you have to rein in all the masculine pronouns. You have to get rid of all that, and everything has to be gender norms so everyone feels all the same.
May I please have permission to kiss you goodnight? You say to your date.
Exactly. Isn't that romantic?
That's so romantic. Would you like to come into my cry room and color with me? Great date. All right.
No.
Good to see you. Thanks, Laura. Good to see you.
Thank you.
And coming up, Senator Jeff Sessions was in Trump Tower today for the transition meetings. The Trump transition team, they're hard at work to fill these key cabinet and White House roles. We will speak with Herman Cain, Ari Fleischer. They're coming up next. And later tonight,
You don't need white guilt, okay? I know y'all feel guilty. You should, because you did this. So I don't care about white feelings right now.
don't care about white feelings. Wow. Left-wing college students are freaking out, lashing out after President-elect Trump's victory. We've got so much tape and so many stories, all of that. Ainsley Earhardt with the #1 book in the country, and Larry Elder and Harvey Levin all coming up straight ahead.